Welcome to the Nightly 5 podcast with Belle Taylor.
On today's show, murder charges against a 12-year-old girl have been dropped, with the Victorian Director of Public Prosecutions saying they believe the accused is simply too young. Pizza Hut has been fined $2.5 million for breaching spam rules. That's electronic spam, not the tinned meat. The New Yorker magazine releases a controversial article throwing the guilt of convicted baby killer Lucy Letby into question. A man in Algeria who went missing almost 30 years ago at age 17 has been found in a neighbour's backyard. He has been kept captive for decades. And in the NRL, rape allegations have been levelled at a Queensland-based player. In our top story today, a 12-year-old girl accused of murder has had the charges against her dropped.
The age of this girl has shocked Victorians. She was charged last night by homicide detectives with one count of murder. It does come after a 37-year-old woman was found fatally stabbed in her Barclay Street apartment in Footscray.
A 12-year-old girl accused of stabbing a woman to death in Melbourne last year will no longer face court. Victorian police have dropped the murder charges against her because she is too young. Prosecutors told a Victorian court that they will not pursue the charges against the girl because they don't believe they would be able to rebut the presumption of doli incapax. That's a Latin legal term that refers to the rule that a child under the age of 14 is incapable of criminal intent, even where a criminal act is committed. Pizza Hut has been served up a $2.5 million fine for spam. No, they haven't been putting the tinned meat on their pizza. We're talking about the other kind of spam. The pizza chain has been peppering Australians with unwanted texts and emails. Pizza Hut sent out almost 6 million texts and emails between January and May 2023 to customers who had not consented to the ads or had opted out of the marketing. The Australian Communications and Media Authority found the spam texts were topped off with more than 4 million marketing messages. They were also sent to customers without an option for them to unsubscribe. This is all a big no-no. Spam rules have been in place for more than 20 years. If you receive advertising material from a company, you must be able to unsubscribe if you so wish. Pizza Hut has agreed to a 3-year court-enforced action, with the company agreeing to appoint an independent consultant to review its compliance with spam rules.
Britain's most prolific child killer, Lucy Letby, a nurse trusted with the lives of newborn babies, today found guilty of 7 murders and the attempted murder of 6 more innocent children.
Lucy Letby is known as one of the UK's worst serial killers. The 33-year-old was convicted last year of murdering babies that she was looking after at the Countess of Chester Hospital, where she worked as a neonatal nurse. It's a story that shocked the world. But now, a 13,000-word feature in the New Yorker magazine claims to raise serious questions about her guilt. The story has been blocked in the UK, a move criticised by at least one UK MP as being in opposition to the principles of open justice. The Nightly's Sarah Blake has been looking at this story. Sarah, what exactly does this New Yorker story say, and is there any new information?
It's a really interesting story. It's a 13,000-word investigation that they published on Monday, and it really has created some shockwaves. So, essentially, it asked the question about whether the sort of rush to judgment of Lucy Letby, that it ignored sort of a series of important evidence. Investigators sort of first seized on her as a suspect when they looked at the fact that Letby had been present in the ward on her shift at a time when there'd been a cluster of deaths and injuries of babies in this hospital. And what experts in this story are asking is whether or not the police have been so enamoured by the cleanliness, the cleanness of the statistics, that they had then avoided looking at the fact that it's entirely possible that no crime had been committed at all.
Well, the story does seem to sort of suggest that the hospital itself was in chaos. And that's
right. Yeah, so what we know about the British NHS, the National Health Service, is that it is completely falling apart. And there's nothing new really in that, and has been, the case for quite some time. So there had been across the whole hospital an increase in deaths, and there was a lot of contemporaneous evidence from other nurses and clinicians who worked at the hospital at the time saying that shifts weren't being covered, that mistakes were being made.
Yeah, and that Lucy, who lived nearby the hospital and was young and single, was the person always being called to take on those extra shifts, wasn't she? So the fact that she was always there, perhaps that wasn't as much of a smoking gun as it's been touted as.
Yeah, that's right. And a lot of that wasn't heard in her trial, a lot of that evidence.
Yeah, interesting. Do you think this new information could lead to a reopening of the case in the UK?
Well, it will be interesting to see if this has any bearing on, there's a retrial for her coming up next month. So there'll be a lot more attention on this case. So it'll be interesting to see if any of this does have any bearing on it.
Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating case. And it's also been a case that has really struck the broader imagination. There's been so many podcasts about it and media interest in it. And you almost sort of wonder if that sort of maybe altered the jury's mindset of it. You know, the name is everywhere. She's become a celebrity almost.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the face of evil really was how she was presented. And certainly what she's been found guilty of is utterly horrific. And, you know, some of the evidence was just so chilling. It's the stuff of nightmares that she had, you know, targeted multiple children that she'd had tried, according to the trial. During the trial, we heard that she'd actually tried to hurt one particular little girl 3 times, and then it was only on the 4th attempt that she killed her. So it is truly harrowing, awful stuff. And obviously you've got to feel for these families who are having it all brought up again.
Absolutely. It's a really, it's a compelling case, but a really, really horrific one with some very, very serious consequences. Thank you so much for chatting to me today, Sarah, and you can read Sarah's story on thenightly.com.au. What you just heard there is the moment a search party found Omar bin Omran in a hole in the ground in a house just a stone's throw from his family home. It's a remarkable story, and it's coming out from the city of Jelfa in Algeria. Omar went missing in 1998 on his way to school when he was just 17. It has now been revealed that he was being kept captive by a man who lived just blocks away from his family's home. Footage shared on social media and on Algerian TV show the moment Omar was found in what appears to be a hole in the ground where sheep also lived. A 61-year-old man is now in police custody. The rescue mission was prompted after the accused man's brother made comments on social media relating to an inheritance dispute which led family members to the house. Omar has been reported as saying he has been unable to call out for help because his alleged abductor cast a spell on him, although it has been suggested that his inability to escape was likely due to his diminished psychological state.
One day out from the start of Magic Round, the NRL has been rocked by news a high-profile player has been accused of rape.
The NRL is reeling from revelations a Queensland-based player has been accused of rape. NRL Chief Executive Andrew Abdo has described the allegations as being very serious and confirmed the league is working with the club on an investigation. The unnamed player has not yet been charged, but was the subject of a formal complaint made to Queensland Police by a woman. Joining me now is the Nightly sports editor, Ben McClellan. Ben,
Yes.
Is there a culture problem in the NRL?
Yeah, look, I mean, we've got to be pretty careful with what we say because, you know, these are untested claims. It's, you know, a pretty familiar path we've tread.
Well, that's it. The familiarness of the path
Yes.
must be troubling.
Yes, it is. It is. So, yeah, so just to be really clear, these claims have been made against a Queensland origin player, which means it's obviously a star of the game. Under Queensland law, someone who's been accused or claims have been made against cannot be named until they've been charged. So, yeah, they haven't been charged with any sort of sex offence. Obviously, police are investigating, but it sort of feels like that's where this might end up. We've seen this with Jared Hayne, Jack DeBellin, who I must say got acquitted. So there have been several high-profile names that have had these claims made against them, and obviously some of them have been proven. Abdo, he's up in Queensland today. trying to promote Magic Round, which is the biggest round in the regular season. It's when all the NRL teams go to Brisbane and they play all the games at Suncorp. So he was holding a press conference today, which would have been about promoting that. Instead, he was obviously fielding questions around these claims. He said, they're working with all the parties. If charges are laid, then this player will be stood down, which will make it very tricky for the NRL if there are suppression orders, because obviously it'll be pretty clear who it is. So any NRL player that faces a criminal accusation for something that carries more than a decade's time in jail has to be stood down from playing until that case is resolved. He's saying, they're very serious. He's also very disappointed by the allegations. So is there a culture problem? It's probably not one for me to say. I would say it's definitely an issue around, claims around consent and, claims around how women are treated by high-profile players. So it's really just disappointing that yet again we're having to deal with these sorts of allegations. It also comes on the eve of the NRLW State of Origin series, which is the women. They're playing a 3-game series for the first time. So it's sort of like... It's
sort of a shadow that's going to be hanging over these...
And Origin itself.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be a big celebration of women in sport, and suddenly everyone's distracted by these yet another allegation.
Yes, it's not great as a rugby league fan, and I guess we'd want to make sure that person who has been brave enough to make these claims is getting all the support they need. The NRL, like we've spoken about, has been in this situation many times before. So hopefully they've got some really good policies in place, which they claim they do, to make sure that everything's done above board. But we'll just have to see how this plays out. Unfortunately, there's not really a lot more I can say, because obviously there's a lot of legal implications. But social media has obviously been, very busy on who the player could be, because when you say it's a high-profile player from the Queensland Origin team, then it narrows it to what many would say is a small pool of players. So,
but the individual is sort of we don't need to speculate on who the individual is. We just need to look at this as a broader issue really within the NRL, and something that let's hope that we can move forward with.
Yes, exactly.
Thanks so much for joining me today, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining me today on the Nightly 5. Ben O'Shea is back on deck tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to check out thenightly.com.au.
The Nightly 5 podcast is brought to you by 7 West Media. For all these stories and more, head to thenightly.com.au, helping you get in front of tomorrow.